Level 1, New Hire Trainee. 260,000 people applied for this job last year. The airline hired fewer than 2,000 of them. You are one of the 2,000. You have not yet been paid. Training stipend barely covers food. The uniform is $455, deducted from your paychecks in installments after you graduate. You are paying to start this job. Training is 6 weeks. 6 weeks of the most specific information you have never been asked to learn. Not the service, not the beverage cart, the safety. The evacuation procedures for every aircraft type you will be certified on. The location of every emergency exit. How to arm a door. How to disarm a door. The difference matters. An armed door will deploy a 200-pound inflatable slide in 0.2 seconds when opened. If you open an armed door on the ground at the wrong moment, the slide deploys onto the jet bridge, the aircraft cannot move, the flight is canceled, and the story ends your career before it starts. You drill this until it is not knowledge, until it is faster than knowledge, until your hand knows what to do before your brain catches up. You practice fire suppression with actual fire. You practice the brace command, 90 seconds to get 180 passengers down and yourself strapped into your jump seat. You practice ditching in a training pool in full uniform. The slide deploys as a raft. You get everyone off before the aircraft sinks. This is not glamour. This is what the job is. The beverage service is what you do while nothing is going wrong. Every single day, 99.99% of the time, nothing goes wrong. But you train for the 0.01%, because the 0.01% is why the FAA requires you on the aircraft at all. A flight attendant is a trained safety professional who also serves beverages. Most passengers will never understand the difference. You will spend your entire career knowing it. You fail your first door drill. Not the arming, the commands. Release seatbelts, leave everything, come this way. You say them too quietly. The instructor says, again, again. You find the voice, not your regular voice, louder, flatter, faster, the voice that cuts through 180 panicking passengers. You did not know you had it. You have it now. You graduate. The FAA issues your certificate of demonstrated proficiency. You are a certified flight attendant. You are assigned to a base, not the base you wanted, the base with the opening. You have 4 days to move there. You don't know anyone there either. You report for your first reserve shift. You sit by your phone. You wait. Level 2, Reserve Flight Attendant. Reserve means you are on call. You are on call 18 to 20 days per month. On those days, you must be reachable at all times. You must be able to reach the airport within 2 hours of being called. Not 2 hours from when you decide to leave. 2 hours from when the phone rings. This means you cannot go to a dinner and order a second glass of wine. It means you cannot go to a movie 2 towns over. It means you cannot make plans that are not cancelable in 90 minutes. For 18 to 20 days a month. The phone will ring, or it will not. When it rings, they will tell you where you are going. Not where you might be going, where you are going. You have 2 hours. You pack for the destination you are told. Sometimes you land and crew scheduling calls, and you are now going somewhere else. You did not pack for somewhere else. You learn to pack for everywhere. A bag that can do Phoenix in August and Minneapolis in February and is always in the car. You are paid for flight hours. Flight hours begin when the aircraft door closes and the brake releases, not when you arrive at the airport, not when you board the aircraft, not during the 45 minutes you spend standing at the gate answering questions about the delay that you did not cause and do not control, when the door closes and the brake releases. Your first year, you will make between $28,000 and $35,000 before taxes, in a city where you just moved, knowing nobody. Some months you make less because the reserve guarantee is the floor, and some months the floor is what you get. You do the math on your grocery bills. You share an apartment with another flight attendant. You become very good at packing light. Reserve is psychological. You wake up not knowing if today is Miami or laundry in your uniform. Both happen, frequently. The day the phone doesn't ring is its own particular exhaustion. You cannot relax because the 2 hours are always on the clock. Your friends stop inviting you to things that require advance commitment, not because they don't like you, because you canceled twice and the third time they stopped asking. You cannot explain reserve to people who haven't lived it. Crew scheduling calls at 11:47 p.m. You are going to Dallas. Departure 2:15 a.m. Hotel by 7 a.m., back on aircraft at 3 p.m., home by 7 p.m. Phone still on reserve. Somewhere in year 2, you realize you have become someone who can be ready to go anywhere in 90 minutes without thinking about it. Not just logistically, mentally. You are not sure if this is a skill or a cost. Probably both. You are number 11,847 on the seniority list. 11,846 people bid before you. Whatever they don't want is what you get. You bid for a line. You don't get one. You wait. Level 3, line holder or domestic. A line is a real schedule. Trips assigned in advance. You know on the first of the month where you are every day of that month. You bid for Christmas off. You don't get it. You won't be senior enough for Christmas off for years. But you know which Christmas you're working and you make peace with it in advance. That is what a line is. Not freedom. Advance knowledge. The closest thing to freedom the seniority system allows at this level. Your trips are domestic. 3-day turns. The 6 a.m. Atlanta to Charlotte to Memphis to Atlanta. The 5 a.m. Dallas to Denver to Salt Lake to Dallas. The turn that takes off at 6 a.m. and lands at 10 p.m., and in between you have worked 4 flights and talked to approximately 600 people, and none of them have asked your name. The thing about domestic turns is the repetition. The same safety demonstration 400 times and 400 more to come. By month 6, your body performs it while your attention is somewhere else entirely. Watching for the passenger not listening, the one whose bag is in the wrong place, the one who is already a problem before the door closes. Flight attendants identify problem passengers before pushback, not from prejudice, from pattern. The person who boards drunk, the person who lost the bag size argument and boards angry, the exit row passenger who hesitates when you ask if they can assist in an emergency. You note all of them. You tell the crew. You watch them. No job description for this, but this is the job. The cart comes, ginger ale, full can, no oat milk. Someone's arm in the aisle on a cart that weighs more than you do. The person in 14C is visibly unwell, not dramatically, just the color, the sweat. You ask twice. The second time they say, actually, maybe not great. You get the medical kit. You get on the intercom. A doctor in row 22 stabilizes them. No diversion. Lands as scheduled. Passenger deplanes with assistance. You file the report and board the next flight. Those passengers want to know about the ginger ale. You took this job to see the world. You were seeing Concourse B at Atlanta 5 times a week. But something happened in row 14 today, and a person is alive because you were paying attention. That is also not in the brochure, but it is also the job. Level 4, Senior Flight Attendant International. Seniority took years. You cannot rush it. You can only survive it until the numbers move in your favor. The numbers moved. You bid international. Frankfurt, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, London. Not the 6 a.m. Charlotte turn. A flight that takes off tonight and lands tomorrow in a city where the time is different and the airport smells different and the layover hotel has a bed you will sleep in for 12 hours and wake up in a city you chose. International changes the job. Wide body. Business class. Business class passengers paid more and expect more, and some of them have flown enough to believe you exist for them personally. 10 years learning to absorb this without showing it. The expression when someone snaps their fingers at you. Neutral, attentive, not what you feel. The flight is 11 hours to Tokyo. You do the meal service. You dim the cabin. You monitor. At hour 4, a passenger calls for you. Their seat is not fully reclining into bed position. You troubleshoot it. It is not fixable in the air. You apologize. You move them to another seat. You document it for maintenance. You do all of this at 38,000 feet over the Pacific at 2 a.m. cabin time while the rest of the cabin sleeps. This is the international long haul at hour 4. The glamour the recruiter described. At hour 7, you are tired in the specific way that long-haul flying produces. Not sleepy, compressed. The recycled air and the pressure and the hours and the fluorescent galley light all adding up to something that is not quite fatigue and not quite wellness. You eat standing up in the galley. The other flight attendant working your zone eats at the same time. You don't talk about the job. You talk about what you are going to do in Tokyo. The ramen place near the hotel, the specific train to take, the 16 hours you have before you have to come back. This is what the layover is, not a vacation, a window. You have learned to live entirely in windows. The aircraft lands at Narita. You get through customs faster than the passengers because you know where to go. Hotel by noon, sleep until 5 p.m., ramen, walk until 10 p.m., alarm at 5 a.m. You have been to Tokyo 26 times. You have seen it in one evening 26 times. It adds up to a relationship with a city that exists entirely in its evenings. You know which layovers leave you worse than before. You know which captains communicate and which ones you won't hear from all flight. You know which passengers are going to be a problem before the seatbelt sign turns off. This is what 10 years builds. Not a resume, a map. You are the one who comes to help when something goes wrong at altitude. You have always been the one. Level 5. Purser or lead flight attendant. The purser is the senior flight attendant on the aircraft. On a wide-body international flight, that means managing a crew of 12. 12 strangers, because seniority means the crew is almost never the same twice. Every flight, you manage strangers. That is the job at this level. Not the passengers, the crew. Pre-flight briefing, emergency equipment check, every flight, every time. Not because you've forgotten, because the first time you skip the check is the flight where something is missing. You have never skipped the check. The captain briefs you on the route, weather, turbulence window. 1 chime, 2 chimes, 3 chimes. Each means something different. You brief your crew. You are the link between the flight deck and the cabin. If something happens in the cabin, you decide whether it reaches the captain. You have made that call. A passenger became aggressive at hour 6 over the Atlantic. Not violent, aggressive. The kind that could become violent. You assessed, you de-escalated, you relocated passengers. You documented. You did not disturb the captain. The captain had an ocean to fly. You handled it. This is the purser's job, to be the last line before the flight deck, to make the captain's problem smaller, not bigger. The flight lands. You debrief your crew. You file the incident report on the aggressive passenger. You note the maintenance issue from row 34J. You note the medical kit item that was used and needs restocking. You check out. You go to the hotel. In the elevator, a junior crew member thanks you for the brief. She says, "I didn't know about the turbulence window. It helped." You say, "You'll remember it for next time." She nods. You go to your room. This is the part of seniority nobody talks about. Not the better routes or the better seats or the Christmas off. The part where you know things that matter, and the knowing came from years of flights, and you are responsible now for passing it forward. Not in a training room, in an elevator, after a long flight, when someone young enough to be your kid says thank you. That is the transfer of knowledge in this profession. Brief and direct and practical. And it matters more than any classroom. Recurrent training every year without exception. Back to the training center, emergency exits, evacuation drill. Release seatbelts, leave everything, come this way. The same voice from the same room. Still there. Because the door doesn't care how many years you have. The 0.01% doesn't check your seniority number before it happens. Level 6. in-flight services manager, or training instructor. You do not fly the line anymore. A check flight once a month to maintain currency. The daily trips, the reserve calls, the Tokyo layovers, those belong to someone else. Your base has 340 flight attendants. You know the ones who are struggling, the ones quietly burning out who haven't told anyone yet. You know because you were all of those things. All of it lives in how you do this. The airline is growing. You need 60 new flight attendants in 4 months. What you are looking for is not on the job description, not the smile, not the service background, the person who, when you ask them to perform the evacuation commands right now in this interview room, does not hesitate, who finds the voice immediately. Not the right voice, a real one. You can identify that person in the first 4 minutes. You hire them. Training begins. You teach the door drill. You teach the fire suppression. You watch the new class practice the brace commands for the first time. You watch their faces when they realize that the job they applied for is not the job they imagined. Some faces fall. A few leave. The ones who stay get a look that you recognize, the same look you got in the training room when you found the voice. Not excitement, resolution. This is what they signed up for, and they are going to be good at it. You pull one trainee aside after the ditching drill. She performed correctly, every step, but her face during the drill was somewhere else. You ask her how she is doing. She says fine. You ask again. She says she didn't expect it to feel so real. You tell her, it is supposed to feel real. That is the point, because on the day it is real, your body needs to already know what to do, and your body learns from drills that feel real. She nods. She comes back the next day. She will be a good flight attendant. You can already tell. A crew member files a complaint about a passenger who grabbed her arm. She handled it correctly, filed the report correctly, but she is shaken in a way that didn't show in the report. You sit with her, not as her manager, as someone who has been grabbed, screamed at, vomited on, and once brought a man back from cardiac arrest at 35,000 feet and then served the rest of the cabin their beverages. Then you tell her what you know. The job takes things from you. The job gives things back. Not evenly, not when you need them, but over the years the account balances. She asks how you knew to stay. You think about reserve, Dallas at 5 a.m., Tokyo 26 evenings, the voice in the training room that you still have, the passenger in 14C. You tell her, I didn't always know. Some days I just came back. And after enough of those days, it wasn't a decision anymore. She goes back to the line. You go back to your desk. The hiring file is open. Another round of applicants, another class of people who do not yet know what they are signing up for. You read the first application. You look for the thing you cannot name in a job description. You know it when you see it. You start reading.